you do want Team B to have access to this resource because they might need it for a specific purpose. Okay? Alright, that's my coffee cup, that's my keyboard. Here's the idea. Let's say you have Team A, and Team A is in charge of some resource here, okay?
Right.
This resource could be executors, this resource could be knowledge, this could be a process, this resource could be anything. But Team A owns this resource. They are the ones in charge of building, managing, and making sure this resource works. But let's say you have somebody in Team B, okay? So Team B wants to have access to this resource, okay? They want to edit content on the website. They want to change a piece of the source code because it's not working for them.
Right.
They want to go and talk directly to a housekeeper because they have an immediate need for the housekeeper to, let's say, treat a VIP with respect, right? So that could be a case of PR coming in, accessing your housekeeper, or it could be, let's say, a case of a front-end engineer accessing back-end engineer code, or it could be a case of, I don't know, it could be a case of, let's say, an executive wanting to take direct action on how to do strategic user research for a piece of content, okay? So anytime you have this, you need to have some sort of agreement between Team A and Team B. And that is this. Do we want this flow to happen? Do we want Team B to access this resource? Question. So do we want Team B to have access to the resources that Team A has? What do you think, Vista?
Well, it depends.
Depends on what?
What are the outcomes and what are the targets?
Well, the outcome is going to be the same because we've already spoken about in the mission, the vision, right? And also the strategic goals. The outcome should be we reach the revenue targets, hospitality goals and such, okay? Everyone's working for the same goal. But the outcome might still be reached, but you could do it elegantly or it could cause a lot of chaos to it. So we should probably choose
I'm not sure.
we should probably choose the more elegant pathway to get this done, okay? So it's not necessarily the outcome can be achieved, but we want to have not just the outcome, we want to respect the structure.
Right.
But why is respecting the structure important? Why do we need to respect the structure? Why can't we just get the outcome done?
Well, it's because that there won't be less disturbance, there won't be less miscommunication.
Right. And also, you can keep this line of ownership constant because how can this person own if everyone else accesses the resource and does everything all wrong? Okay? This then becomes the question of how do you do internal open source? So yes, you do want Team B to have access to this resource because they might need it for a specific purpose.
Right.
Okay? So let's say that somebody in PR wants to go to your housekeeper under the property manager supervision and ask the housekeeper for a favor. But let's say you're busy. You have other things to worry about. Then what should that PR person say to you such that you remain as the supervisor of that housekeeper and don't confuse that housekeeper because now there is a second leader that just emerged out of nowhere that needs access to their execution and to their time. What do you think of
There
that?
would be communication should be done and set the boundaries what the extra team can do.
Exactly. So what needs to happen is actually quite subtle. These Team B can get access to your resource, let's say a housekeeper, if they make a deal with you first. What they need to do is have you tell this housekeeper that this team will give temporary, let's say, access to themselves, okay, over telling them what to do, and then afterwards they will listen to you again, okay? You are still responsible for what happens in this relationship, but then you're also responsible for what Team B does because they're borrowing your resource. So if they do something and the housekeeper is, let's say, so pissed off and everything, that's still your responsibility because you gave them access to your resource, okay? So generally speaking, what should happen is that you let them write into here, but you can veto the actual decision or resource if you don't find it compatible with your objectives, okay? They can ask you for, can I have access to this housekeeper? And you need to say, only for the next 20, 30 minutes because then I need them to do something else. And then they go, okay, we will borrow your housekeeper for 20, 30 minutes to do this. And then that is okay, all right? So you as the owner of this resource need to maintain control over the resource, but you have to essentially make a internal open source request. They make a request to you, you grant it, and then that allows you to maintain the relationship here while giving them access, and they can then quickly tell the plan, and do everything else. If we didn't have internal open source, it would mean that they would have to relay it to you, and then you'd have to relay it to this person, and that would cost us more in terms of
time and effort. And
yes,
everything.
but we do need some amount of control here because otherwise this situation and this resource gets abused. So this can be like somebody borrowing the camera equipment from, let's say, the marketing team and forgetting to return it, and then it becomes now the marketing team's problem when they can't have a camera to shoot a property. But should we have cameras just sitting around not being used when somebody has a good content idea?
Of course not.
Right.
We need to utilize them.
So once again, this negotiation between Team B and Team A needs to happen. So in the case of camera, I need to borrow it for today. Do we have any shoots coming up? No, you can borrow it. Okay. Team A needs to know when can that resource be returned back, and Team B needs to respect that. And that's essentially what we call internal open source. Okay. It's really powerful, and it really reduces the amount of, let's say, blocking steps, bottlenecks, missed coordination that can happen when you're not practicing internal open source. You get it?
Right.
Okay, great. Any other follow-up questions?
Yes. What happens if it does not give access to it, but it is a necessary thing?
Well,
Would there
then,
be any lack of judgment or lack of knowledge between Team A and Team B?
that's a very good question. And that's why we put everybody on the same goal, and everybody either benefits or loses together on the monthly mission, right? Because we don't want there to be a situation by which Team A is denying access for some dumb reason, right? As long as Team A knows that Team B is in, let's say, the strategic right of way to do something that benefits the company, then it is in their also best interest not to face a bonus cap on themselves and the rest of the company by granting access to that resource and having that resource used by the team that needs it. Now, I assume that everybody in Bukit Vista is following core values, the mission and vision, so there should be no, let's say, good reason that violates our core values for not sharing a resource when it's just sitting around available, right? It could be maybe a front-end designer for somebody who is not on the engineering team that wants a front-end for their website. Or it could be maybe initiated by you because you realize that maybe this particular person who keeps on asking me for a question, I can just direct them to a YouTube video and I need to borrow a camera in order to record that. Can I take the one off the CEO's desk, right? It can be any number of things to ask for internal open source, but I think you should probably, as Team A, try to share, but the timing of when to share and when not to share, just we have to say that we rely on Team A's good judgment, okay? So maybe they cannot share the resource because they are responsible for a critical MSM, a monthly strategic milestone, that they need to be, they need all resources on deck. So I think it's what I learned in Capoeira. It's your fault if you get kicked by somebody. It's also your fault if you kick somebody. So I think Team A and Team B should have that. It's your fault for not lending a resource when it was needed, and it was your fault for borrowing a resource at the wrong time when somebody didn't have the capacity to let you borrow. So as long as everybody takes some responsibility for how resources are shared, I think then we can have, let's say, better cohesion and culture inside the company.
I see. So it kind of foster that, say, in between teams.
Well, I think every team needs to have tolerances for other teams, right? Not too much to the point where it becomes just a waiting culture, but not too little where it becomes like hoarding culture and you don't share anything with anybody else. Because then if we take a real look at all the resources in the company, you'll find that it's bound by time, right? This microphone right now has a lifespan in which, let's say, it's really new, it's really useful right now, but if we don't use it, we don't put it to use, there's going to be better microphones that come out. So the way I see it, the more utilization for every resource, for a human that's better utilized gains more experience every day. A piece of equipment that's better utilized is more productive every day. A coffee glass that is full keeps us more charged every day. So every resource should be, I think, being used ideally 100% of the time, and not just in closets or whatever else. Yeah. Okay, any other questions?
I believe that's it.
All right, fantastic. That's it. Internal open resource. Use it and thrive. Okay.